So, how do we really know things? It's a huge question, right? Today, we're diving into the two main paths we take to find answers. We've got the world of numbers and measurement, that's quantitative research, and we've got the world of meaning and experience, which we call qualitative research. I mean, think about it. When you have a really complex question, something important, maybe it's about a new medical treatment or just trying to understand why people love a certain brand, how do you get from just wondering to having an answer you can actually trust? Well, it turns out there isn't just one way to get there. There are two main roads you can take. To keep it simple, let's think of one as a perfectly straight, predictable line, and the other as a winding, circular path of discovery. Both are incredibly powerful, just in different ways. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at what I'm calling the quantitative blueprint. Then we'll explore the qualitative cycle. After that, we'll put them right next to each other to see the differences, figure out how you choose which path to take, and wrap up with a big takeaway. All right, first up, this straight line. This is the world of quantitative research. The best way to think about it is like an architect's blueprint. Everything is planned out, structured, and you follow a very clear step-by-step process. So what is it exactly? Well, at its heart, quantitative research is all about numbers. It's this formal, objective process where you use numerical data to measure things, test relationships between them, and see if one thing causes another. It's basically about translating the world into numbers so we can analyze it with statistics. And the process itself is super strict and linear. You've got these 5 phases, and you absolutely have to do them in order. You start with your big idea, you design the whole study down to the last detail, then you go collect the numbers, you analyze them, and finally, you share what you found. No skipping ahead. And the absolute key here is structure. The entire plan is locked in from the very beginning. You decide exactly what you're going to measure and how you're going to do it before you even start. It's like building a house. You don't change the blueprint halfway through construction. The engine that drives this whole thing is something called deductive reasoning. Think of it as going from general to specific, or top-down. You start with a big theory, like, say, daily exercise improves mood. Then you design a very specific experiment to collect data and see if your theory actually holds up in the real world. You're testing something you already suspect is true. Okay, let's switch gears and jump over to our second path. If quantitative was that straight highway, then qualitative research is more like a winding, scenic country road. It's all about exploration, and the journey itself can be pretty circular. See, instead of numbers, qualitative research is all about meaning. It's a systematic way to dive deep and really understand people's experiences. We're talking about non-numerical data here, things like in-depth interviews, stories, photos, personal journals. It's all about the why and how behind what people do. And here, the process is the total opposite of fixed. It's emergent. That's a fancy word that just means the plan can change as you go. As the researcher, you are the main tool for gathering information, and as you learn new things, you might totally change your direction. So what does that actually look like? Well, a researcher might do a couple of interviews and start analyzing them right away. And the interesting themes they find in those first couple of chats, that will actually shape who they decide to talk to next and what questions they'll ask. It's this continuous loop of collecting and analyzing, and it goes on until they hit something called data saturation. That's the point where they realize, hey, I'm not hearing anything new anymore. The story is complete. And what you get at the end isn't a spreadsheet full of numbers. It's a rich, detailed story. The reports are filled with these powerful word-for-word quotes directly from the people you talk to. You get a real, visceral sense of what their experience was like. And the logic here, it's the complete inverse of what we saw before. This is inductive reasoning. It's bottom up. You start with very specific, detailed observations, like one person's story, and you work your way up to find broader patterns and maybe even develop a brand new theory. You're literally building knowledge from the ground up. Okay, we've walked down the straight path, and we've wandered along the circular one. Now let's stand right at the crossroads and put them side by side. This is where it all becomes crystal clear. Just take a look at this. Quantitative uses that top-down deductive logic to test a theory using numbers, usually from a really big group of people, with a fixed plan, where the researcher tries to stay objective. Qualitative, it does the exact opposite. It's bottom-up, inductive logic that develops a theory using words and images from a small group, with a flexible design where the researcher is right there in the mix. Now, it's worth knowing that these two approaches are like big umbrellas.
Underneath each one, you've got a whole family of different types of studies. So under the quantitative umbrella, you'll find things like experimental studies. And on the qualitative side, you have methods like phenomenology, which is all about exploring a lived experience, or grounded theory, which tries to build a theory straight from the data.
So the big question is, which one is better? And the answer is, that's the wrong question. One isn't better than the other. They're just different tools for different jobs. The right path depends entirely on the question you're trying to answer.
If your question is about measurement, if you're asking, how many or what's the effect, then you're going to take the quantitative path. You want to know things like how many people clicked the button, or what's the statistical impact of this new program. It's all about measuring and testing.
But if your question is about the why behind the numbers, if you're asking, why did they click, or what does it actually feel like to be in that program, well, then you need the qualitative path. It's all about understanding and exploring.
And you know what? A lot of the time, the very best answers come from not choosing a path at all, but by building a bridge between them. This is what we call mixed methods research. Think about the phone in your pocket. Engineers ran quantitative tests on battery life for sure, but other researchers also ran qualitative focus groups to understand how the phone feels in your hand. You need both to get the full picture.
So let's wrap this up. What's the one big idea you should take away from all of this? What's the point of knowing about these two different paths? At the end of the day, this stuff isn't just for academics in a lab. These are two fundamental ways that we all try to make sense of the world. Sometimes you need to step back and get the objective numbers, and other times you need to lean in and really listen to the subjective stories. And that brings me to my final question for you. When you're faced with a problem in your own life or at work, which path do you tend to take? Are you a blueprint person who likes that straight line from A to B? Or are you more of an explorer who likes to follow the winding path and see where it leads? Knowing your own style is the first step to mastering both.